Maya Chen pressed her thick glasses against the dusty window of her grandmother's attic, watching the other kids from her new school play soccer in the street below. 3 weeks into 8th grade at Jefferson Middle School, and she still ate lunch alone, reading science fiction novels while everyone else gossiped about TikTok trends she didn't understand. "Different doesn't mean wrong, little star," her grandmother had always said in Mandarin. But different felt pretty wrong when you were the only 13-year-old who got excited about quantum physics instead of boy bands. Her parents thought the move from San Francisco to this small Oregon town would help her socialize better. Instead, Maya found herself spending even more time alone, especially here in Grandma Chen's cluttered attic, surrounded by decades of collected curiosities from her grandmother's travels as a diplomat. The attic stretched the full length of the old Victorian house, packed with wooden crates, ancient furniture, and mysterious objects from dozens of countries. Maya had been systematically cataloging everything, creating a detailed inventory on her laptop. It was the kind of methodical, obsessive project that made her classmates roll their eyes. But Maya loved the puzzle of identifying each artifact. She was photographing a set of Tibetan singing bowls when her phone's metal detector app started going crazy. Maya had installed it weeks ago, hoping to find old coins or jewelry to research. The app's readings spiked as she moved toward the far corner of the attic, where heavy cloth covered something large and rectangular. Pulling away the dusty canvas revealed a metal chest unlike anything Maya had ever seen. The surface appeared to be some kind of dark alloy that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Geometric patterns covered every inch, forming complex mathematical sequences that made Maya's brain itch in a familiar, exciting way. The same feeling she got when working through advanced calculus problems online. The chest had no visible lock, just a circular depression in the center of the lid about the size of her palm. Maya ran her fingers along the patterns, noting how they followed Fibonacci sequences and prime number progressions. Her grandmother had been a mathematics professor before joining the diplomatic corps. Had she known what this was? Maya pulled out her phone and photographed the patterns, then opened her math apps to analyze the sequences. The more she studied them, the more convinced she became that this wasn't human mathematics. The progressions were too perfect, too advanced, incorporating concepts she'd only read about in theoretical physics papers. After 2 hours of analysis, Maya discovered the key. The patterns weren't just decorative, they were a lock mechanism. By tracing specific sequences in the correct order, following the mathematical logic embedded in the design, she could feel tiny mechanisms clicking inside the chest. Her heart pounded as she completed the final sequence. The circular depression in the lid began to glow with a soft blue light, and Maya felt a slight vibration through the floorboards. The chest opened with a whisper, quiet hiss, revealing an interior that defied physics. The inside was far larger than the outside dimensions allowed. Crystalline shelves stretched impossibly deep into the chest, filled with objects that seemed to shift and change when Maya wasn't looking directly at them. But what drew her attention immediately was the book floating in the center of the space. It wasn't really a book in any traditional sense. The pages appeared to be made of some kind of energy, constantly shifting between different languages and symbols. Maya could see English, Mandarin, Arabic, and dozens of scripts she didn't recognize cycling through the translucent pages. Above the book, holographic text appeared in perfect English. Extraterrestrial Knowledge Archive, authorized personnel only, danger, containment protocols active. Maya's scientific mind raced. This had to be some kind of alien artifact. The mathematics, the impossible interior dimensions, the advanced technology, it all pointed to extraterrestrial origin. But how had her grandmother acquired it? And why was it hidden in the attic? She reached for her phone to document everything, but as soon as she held it near the chest, the device went dead. The electromagnetic field around the artifact was apparently strong enough to disrupt electronics. Maya quickly retreated to grab her old film camera and notebook, thinking like the scientist she dreamed of becoming. The floating book seemed to respond to her presence. As Maya approached, the cycling text slowed and stabilized in English. The pages showed what appeared to be an index of some kind, listing thousands of entries under categories like Galactic History, Advanced Technologies, Xenobiology, and Interdimensional Phenomena. One section was marked with pulsing red text: Restricted, Dangerous Entities, Summoning Protocols, Containment Breaches. Maya's scientific curiosity warred with common sense. Every science fiction novel she'd ever read warned against messing with alien artifacts, especially ones with danger warnings. But this was the discovery of a lifetime: evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence, advanced mathematics and technology, knowledge that could revolutionize human understanding of the universe. She noticed something else. At the bottom of the index, a small notation read, "Archive requires cognitive compatibility rating of 847 or higher for safe access. Current user rating, 863. Access granted with standard precautions." Whatever test this thing was running on her, she'd apparently passed. Maya felt a mixture of pride and terror. She was smart enough to access alien technology, but was she smart enough to handle it safely? The book's pages fluttered without any breeze, settling on a section titled Beginner's Guide to Archive Navigation. The text was friendly, almost casual. "Congratulations on discovering this archive. You must be pretty smart to solve the lock. Don't worry. We've included plenty of safety features. Just remember, start small, think carefully, and never open anything marked with a skull symbol. Trust us on that one." Despite her nervousness, Maya smiled. Whoever had created this archive had a sense of humor. She spent the next hour learning how to navigate the book, which responded to thought and touch. The interface was incredibly intuitive, almost like it was designed specifically for curious young minds. She learned that the archive contained knowledge from hundreds of alien civilizations collected over millennia by something called the Galactic Preservation Initiative. It was like a cosmic library, designed to preserve important knowledge in case entire civilizations were lost. The archive explained that Earth had been seeded with several such repositories, hidden and waiting for humans to develop enough to find and use them safely. Maya's grandmother had apparently been one of the designated guardians, though the archive noted she'd never actually opened the main collection. Maya found herself in the section on harmless curiosities, alien poetry, art, and cultural artifacts that posed no danger. She was fascinated by holographic displays of alien architecture and music that played directly in her mind. The diversity of intelligent life in the galaxy was overwhelming and beautiful, but her eyes kept drifting back to that restricted section. The warnings were clear, but Maya noticed something interesting. The dangerous entries weren't locked away. They were just strongly discouraged. The archive seemed to trust users' judgment rather than forcing restrictions. One entry in particular caught her attention. Emergency Situation Protocols, Summoning Benevolent Guardians. The description explained that in cases of extreme danger to the archive or its user, it was possible to summon protective entities from a parallel dimension. The entities were described as absolutely committed to preventing universal catastrophe and mostly harmless to compatible users. Maya told herself she was just reading, not planning anything. But the more she learned about the summoning process, the more fascinated she became. The mathematics involved were incredibly elegant, using principles of quantum mechanics and dimensional physics that shouldn't exist on Earth yet. The summoning ritual was surprisingly simple, just a matter of reading aloud a specific sequence of words while focusing on the desired outcome. The archive warned that summoned entities were extremely powerful and would remain until they determined the situation was resolved, but they were bound by cosmic laws to protect rather than harm. Maya rationalized her growing curiosity. She wasn't in any danger, so the entities wouldn't do anything dramatic. She could summon one, maybe ask it a few questions about the universe, and then send it away. It would be like having a conversation with an alien, the opportunity of a lifetime for someone who'd always dreamed of making contact. The late afternoon sun was fading when Maya finally made her decision. She'd been studying the archive for hours, and her parents wouldn't be home until evening. If she was going to do this, now was the perfect time. She found the simplest summoning protocol in the archive, something called a Curiosity Guardian, that was described as ideal for young scholars seeking knowledge. The warnings were minimal. May cause temporary disorientation. Guardian will remain until user's curiosity is satisfied or danger is resolved. Maya positioned herself carefully in the center of the attic, the book floating open in front of her. She cleared her throat and began reading the summoning words aloud. They weren't in any language she recognized, but somehow she knew exactly how to pronounce them. The air in the attic began to shimmer as Maya spoke. The mathematical patterns on the chest started glowing brighter, and she felt a strange tingling sensation, like the moment before lightning strikes. The book's pages fluttered rapidly, cycling through thousands of alien languages. Maya reached the final words of the summoning protocol and spoke them clearly. By the authority of knowledge and the right of discovery, I call forth a guardian to guide and protect. The attic exploded with light. When Maya's vision cleared, she found herself face to face with something that made her question everything she thought she knew about the universe. The creature floating in front of her was roughly humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin seemed to be made of living starlight, constantly shifting between deep space black and brilliant stellar white. It had 4 arms, eyes that looked like miniature galaxies, and an expression of what Maya could only describe as ancient amusement. Well, the being said in a voice like cosmic wind, speaking perfect English, this is unexpected. I was summoned by a human child. It paused, studying Maya with those galaxy eyes. A human child who somehow gained access to a Class 7 preservation archive and successfully completed a dimensional summoning ritual. Maya tried to speak, but could only manage a small squeaking sound. The guardian entity chuckled, a sound like distant supernovas. Don't be afraid, young scholar. I am bound by the deepest laws of reality to protect you. My name is, well, you couldn't pronounce my real name, but you may call me Axiom. I am what your people might call a cosmic librarian. Are you, Maya finally managed to whisper, are you really an alien? Axiom's starlight skin rippled with what might have been laughter. I am many things, child, but more importantly, I am here because you called me. The archive tells me you've been studying for hours, with remarkable comprehension. Your cognitive compatibility rating is quite impressive for such a young human. Maya's scientific mind began overriding her shock. The archive said Earth was seeded with repositories. How many are there? How long have you been watching us? What other civilizations exist in the galaxy? Ah, Axiom said, all 4 arms spreading in a gesture that seemed approving. Now, those are the right questions. But first, I must understand something important. You accessed a restricted summoning protocol. Were you in danger? Is there a threat to the archive? Maya felt her cheeks burn. No, I was just curious. I wanted to meet an alien and learn about the universe. I'm sorry if I wasn't supposed to. But Axiom held up one starlight hand. Curiosity is not a failing, young Maya Chen. It is the most important quality in the universe. Civilizations that lose their curiosity stagnate and die. Those that nurture it reach the stars. The way Axiom said her name made Maya realize this entity knew far more about her than she'd expected. You know who I am? The archive creates a profile of each user, but more than that, I can see your potential futures branching out like a great tree. Most humans your age show perhaps a dozen possible paths. You show thousands. Your mind is unusual. Maya wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a concern. What do you mean? Axiom moved closer, and Maya could see entire star systems being born and dying in the being's eyes. Tell me, child, what do you think makes humanity special? What do you believe sets your species apart from the thousands of others in this galaxy? It was such an unexpected question that Maya answered honestly. I don't know if we are special. We're pretty young compared to other species, right? We haven't even left our solar system yet. Most of the time we're fighting with each other instead of working together. And yet, Axiom said softly, you are the first species in this galactic sector to independently discover and access a preservation archive. Do you know how remarkable that is? Maya shook her head. The archive has been in your grandmother's possession for 47 years. She was selected as a guardian but never opened it, despite being brilliant enough to solve the lock. The previous guardians, going back 12 generations, all made the same choice. They sensed the archive's importance but decided it was too dangerous to explore. But I opened it, Maya said, beginning to understand. A 13-year-old human child not only opened a device that has mystified some of the galaxy's greatest minds, but did so purely out of curiosity. Then, faced with knowledge that could revolutionize your entire civilization, you chose to dig deeper rather than run away. And when offered the chance to summon a being from another dimension, you had the courage to try. Maya felt overwhelming. I was just interested. I like learning new things. Axiom's galaxy eyes seemed to glow brighter. Yes, that is exactly what makes humanity extraordinary. Your species possesses something incredibly rare, the combination of boundless curiosity and the courage to act on it, even when you're afraid. Most civilizations develop one or the other, but rarely both. The guardian entity moved to examine the archive, its starlight form casting impossible shadows on the attic walls. This archive contains knowledge from civilizations that reached technological heights your people can barely imagine. Some could manipulate matter at the quantum level, others could fold space and time. But do you know what they all had in common? They stopped being curious, Maya guessed. Exactly. They became so focused on perfection, on avoiding risk, that they stopped asking, what if? They stopped exploring. They stopped growing. And eventually they faded away, leaving only their knowledge behind. Maya thought about her classmates, how they seemed content with what they already knew, never asking deeper questions. Then she thought about herself, always wondering, always digging for answers. Maybe being different wasn't wrong after all. So what happens now? She asked. Are you going to take the archive away, report me to some galactic council? Axiom made that supernova chuckling sound again. Child, I was summoned by a human who accessed impossible knowledge through pure intellectual curiosity, then had the audacity to call forth a cosmic guardian just to ask questions about the universe. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to celebrate you. The being gestured toward the floating book. The archive is yours now, Maya Chen. You've proven worthy of its knowledge. But more than that, I believe you're ready to learn why this archive was really placed on Earth, and what role humanity is meant to play in the greater galaxy. Maya felt her heart racing. There's more? Oh, my dear young scholar, Axiom said, its starlight form beginning to pulse with excitement. You have no idea what you've just set in motion. The discovery of this archive by a human child, the successful completion of a summoning ritual, your remarkable compatibility rating. These things have triggered protocols that have been dormant for millennia. What kind of protocols? Axiom turned all four arms toward the attic window, where the first stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky. The kind that will change everything. Your world is about to learn that it's not alone in the universe, Maya Chen. And you, whether you realize it or not, are about to become humanity's first ambassador to the galactic community. Maya followed the Guardian's gaze to the stars, feeling a mixture of excitement and terror that made her hands shake. I'm just a 13-year-old kid. I can't be an ambassador to anything. That, Axiom said with what sounded like profound satisfaction, is exactly why you're perfect for the job. The galaxy has been waiting a very long time for a species with your particular combination of curiosity, courage, and humility. Tomorrow, Maya Chen, your real education begins. As if summoned by those words, Maya heard her parents' car pulling into the driveway. She looked at Axiom in panic. They can't see you! They'll freak out! But the guardian entity was already beginning to fade, becoming translucent. I will return when you need me, young scholar. Study the archive tonight, learn what you can, and remember, the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than you've ever imagined. With that, Axiom vanished, leaving only a faint smell of ozone and starlight. The archive book settled gently into Maya's hands, no longer floating but still glowing softly. The chest remained open, its impossible interior waiting for further exploration. Maya heard her mother calling from downstairs, asking about homework and dinner. She looked down at the alien book in her hands, then up at the stars visible through the attic window. Everything had changed in the space of an afternoon. She was no longer just a lonely, curious kid in a small Oregon town. She was humanity's first contact with the wider universe. And somehow, that felt exactly right. Maya spent the entire night studying the archive, surviving on energy drinks and determination. By dawn, she had filled 3 notebooks with alien mathematics, technological principles, and historical accounts of dozens of civilizations. The knowledge was overwhelming and beautiful, like drinking from a cosmic fire hose. What troubled her most wasn't the complexity of the information. Her brain seemed perfectly suited to absorbing and understanding even the most advanced concepts. What worried her were the patterns she was beginning to recognize in the historical records. Civilization after civilization had reached technological peaks, only to collapse not from external threats, but from internal stagnation. The Vorthak Empire had mastered genetic manipulation and lived for thousands of years, but eventually stopped reproducing because they'd achieved perfect genetic templates. The crystal minds of Andromeda had uploaded their consciousness to quantum computers and achieved immortality, but gradually lost interest in the physical universe. Every advanced species seemed to follow the same pattern: achieve great power, eliminate risk and uncertainty, then slowly fade away from lack of purpose. The galaxy was littered with the ruins of civilizations that had become too careful, too perfect, too safe. Maya was deep in a fascinating account of the last days of the ethereal collective when her bedroom door burst open. Maya, you missed breakfast and... Her mother stopped mid-sentence, staring at the glowing book floating inches above Maya's desk. What in the world is that thing? Maya's heart stopped. In her exhaustion, she'd forgotten to hide the archive. The book hung in mid-air, its pages cycling through equations that made reality bend around the edges. Mom, I can explain. But Dr. Sarah Chen was already moving closer, her physicist's training overriding her parental shock. Maya, where did you get this? The electromagnetic field alone should be impossible, and this isn't any human technology I've ever seen. Before Maya could answer, the air in her bedroom began to shimmer. Axiom materialized slowly, apparently responding to the presence of another human near the archive. Maya's mother sat down heavily on the bed, staring at the 4-armed being of living starlight. Okay, she said in the controlled voice she used during faculty meetings. I'm either having a breakdown or my daughter has made contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Your daughter, Axiom said gently, is the most remarkable human I have encountered in several centuries. Dr. Chen, your reputation as a theoretical physicist precedes you. The archive has extensive files on Earth's scientific community. You know who I am? Sarah asked faintly. The Galactic Preservation Initiative has been monitoring Earth's intellectual development for generations. We've been particularly interested in your work on quantum consciousness and dimensional mechanics. Your papers on multiversal theory are considered quite advanced for a pre-contact civilization. Maya watched her mother process this information with the same methodical approach she brought to complex physics problems. Maya, how long have you been in contact with Axiom, was it? Since yesterday afternoon, Maya admitted. I found the archive in Grandma's attic. I solved the mathematical lock and... Mathematical lock? Sarah interrupted, then looked at Axiom. Show me. For the next 2 hours, Maya demonstrated the archive's interface while Axiom explained the broader situation. Sarah asked increasingly sophisticated questions about galactic civilizations, technological development, and Earth's place in the cosmic community. Maya was relieved when her mother didn't immediately ban her from the archive or demand they contact the government. Instead, Sarah seemed as fascinated as Maya herself. So, let me understand this, Sarah said finally. Humanity is being evaluated for potential membership in some kind of galactic community, and this archive is both a test and a gift? More complex than that, Axiom replied. The galaxy is facing a crisis that threatens all intelligent life. We need civilizations that can think in new ways, solve problems that have stymied older species. Humanity shows promise, but we needed to be sure you could handle advanced knowledge responsibly. Maya felt a chill. What kind of crisis? Axiom's starlight form dimmed slightly. Something is consuming entire star systems at the galaxy's edge. We call it the Silence, a force that doesn't just destroy civilizations, but erases them completely from reality. No survivors, no ruins, no traces they ever existed. How is that possible? Sarah asked. We don't know. That's the problem. The galaxy's greatest minds have studied the Silence for over a century. Every scientific analysis, every technological solution, every military response has failed. The Silence continues to spread, erasing approximately 1 star system per month. Maya felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders. And you think humans can help? Yesterday, you accomplished something that should have been impossible, Axiom said. You accessed a Class 7 archive without any prior knowledge of galactic technology. You solved mathematical puzzles that have challenged species far older and more advanced than yours, and when faced with the unknown, your first instinct was to learn more rather than retreat. But I'm just one person, Maya protested, and I'm 13 years old. How can I help save the galaxy? Before Axiom could answer, Maya's phone started buzzing frantically. Then Sarah's phone. Then every electronic device in the house began screaming with emergency alerts. Maya looked out her bedroom window and gasped. The sky was wrong. Instead of normal morning blue, it showed a swirling vortex of colors that hurt to look at directly. Other windows throughout the neighborhood showed people pointing and shouting. Axiom, Sarah said sharply. Is this connected to the Silence? The cosmic guardian's form brightened with what Maya recognized as alarm. No, this is something else. Something I didn't expect. Axiom moved to the window, all 4 arms extended as if sensing invisible forces. This is a dimensional cascade failure. Someone or something is attempting to breach the barriers between realities. Maya felt the archive book growing warm in her hands. New text was appearing on its pages, pulsing with urgent red light. Emergency protocols activated. Dimensional breach detected. Seeking compatible user for crisis response. Maya, her mother said quietly, I think that book wants you to do something. The archive's pages flipped rapidly to a section Maya hadn't seen before. Ultimate Emergency Procedures, Reality Stabilization Protocols. The text was written in simple terms, as if designed for young minds under extreme stress. Maya read quickly, her heart racing. According to the archive, dimensional barriers could sometimes weaken naturally, but active breaches required massive energy expenditures and sophisticated technology. Whatever was causing this cascade failure was both powerful and deliberate. It's not the silence, Maya announced. Something else is trying to break into our reality. The archive says, I can help stabilize the dimensional barriers, but... She hesitated, reading the warnings. But what? Sarah demanded. But it requires linking my consciousness directly to the archive's quantum matrix. I'd essentially become part of the Galactic Preservation Network. It's reversible, but during the process, I'd have access to the combined knowledge of thousands of civilizations. Axiom moved closer, its galaxy eyes fixed on Maya. Child, that procedure is designed for mature scholars who have trained for decades. The information transfer alone could overwhelm a young mind. Through the window, the sky vortex was growing larger. Maya could hear sirens and shouting from the street below. On her phone, emergency broadcasts were reporting similar phenomena worldwide. How long do we have? Sarah asked. According to the archive, Maya said, studying the readouts, if the cascade continues at this rate, dimensional barriers will collapse completely in approximately 4 hours. After that, whatever's trying to break through will succeed. And if that happens? Her mother pressed. Maya read further, her face growing pale. Multiple realities start merging chaotically. The laws of physics become unreliable. Basically, everything we know stops working properly. Axiom's starlight form flickered with distress. I must contact the Galactic Council immediately. They need to know about this development. Wait, Maya said, still reading. The archive says the breach point is specifically targeting Earth, not random dimensional weakening, deliberate invasion focused on our planet. She looked up at Axiom with growing understanding. Someone knows about humanity's potential, don't they? Someone is trying to stop us before we can help with the silence. The Cosmic Guardian went very still. That would be catastrophic. If the silence has allied with dimension breakers... Axiom trailed off, but Maya could see the implications. We can't wait for the Galactic Council, Maya said firmly. By the time they respond, it'll be too late. The archive says I can stop this, but I have to act now. Maya, no, her mother said immediately. You're 13 years old. I won't let you risk your mind on some alien procedure. But Maya was already moving toward the archive chest, which had begun pulsing with urgent light. Mom, look outside. Look at what's happening. If I don't try, everyone on Earth could die. Everyone in the galaxy could die. Sarah followed her daughter's gaze to the chaotic sky, then looked at the terrified faces of their neighbors. Maya could see the moment her mother's protective instincts warred with her scientific training and her understanding of the stakes. There has to be another way, Sarah said desperately. The archive lists 47 other potential solutions, Maya replied, scanning the text rapidly. They all require either massive technological resources we don't have or multiple trained users working in coordination. I'm the only compatible human it can find, and we're out of time. Axiom moved between Maya and the archive. Child, I cannot allow you to risk yourself. The procedure you're considering could destroy your personality, leave you a hollow shell filled with alien thoughts. Maya looked at the Cosmic Guardian with determination that surprised her. You said yesterday that curiosity and courage make humanity special. Well, I'm curious about whether I can save my world, and I'm brave enough to try. She moved past Axiom toward the archive chest. The impossible interior space was now filled with swirling energy, and Maya could feel the quantum matrix calling to her consciousness like a magnetic pull. "At least let me help," Sarah said, moving to stand beside her daughter. "I don't understand alien technology, but I know quantum mechanics. Maybe I can monitor the process, pull you back if things go wrong." Axiom's starlight form rippled with what might have been admiration. The courage to act in the face of impossible odds. "Yes, this is why your species shows such promise." The Guardian moved to the other side of Maya. "Very well. I will maintain the dimensional anchor to prevent your consciousness from becoming lost in the matrix. But Maya, you must promise me. If the procedure becomes too dangerous, if you feel yourself being overwhelmed, you will allow us to disconnect you." Maya nodded, though she suspected that once the process began, the choice might be out of their hands. She approached the archive chest, feeling the energy field surrounding it intensify. "How does this work?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The floating book opened to a new page that showed a simple diagram. Maya needed to place her hands on specific points around the chest's rim while focusing on the dimensional stabilization algorithms the archive would provide. "Once you begin," Axiom warned, "you'll experience the accumulated knowledge of thousands of civilizations simultaneously. Most minds couldn't process a fraction of that information without fracturing." "But I'm not most minds, am I?" Maya said with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. "The archive chose me. It must think I can handle this." Sarah grabbed her daughter's hand. "Maya, I need you to know. I'm proud of you. Whatever happens, I'm proud that my daughter is brave enough to try saving the world." Maya squeezed her mother's hand, then stepped forward and placed her palms on the designated points around the archive chest. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Knowledge flooded into Maya's mind like a tidal wave. Mathematical principles that took civilizations centuries to develop flowed through her consciousness in seconds. She saw the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of galactic empires, the elegant equations that governed reality itself. But instead of being overwhelmed, Maya felt her mind expanding to accommodate the information. It was like her brain had been designed for exactly this purpose, to absorb, process, and synthesize cosmic knowledge at impossible speeds. Through her enhanced perception, Maya could see the dimensional breach clearly. It wasn't random. It was surgical, precise, designed to target Earth specifically while making the attack look like natural dimensional instability. And behind the breach, she glimpsed something that made her blood run cold. The entities trying to break through weren't just powerful. They were predators. They consumed the potential of developing civilizations, feeding on the creative energy of species just beginning to reach for the stars. Humanity's unique combination of curiosity and courage made them a particularly attractive target. But Maya also saw something the predators hadn't expected. The archive hadn't just chosen her randomly. It had been waiting for exactly her type of mind. The combination of human intuition, mathematical ability, and sheer stubborn determination that made her classmates think she was weird also made her perfectly suited to wielding cosmic knowledge. Working through the archive's quantum matrix, Maya began implementing the dimensional stabilization protocols. It was like conducting a symphony of physics, balancing forces that existed beyond normal space-time while holding reality together through pure mathematical precision. The predator entities noticed her interference immediately. Maya felt them focusing their attention on her, trying to overwhelm her consciousness with fear and despair. But they had made a crucial miscalculation. They were used to fighting ancient, cautious civilizations that approached every problem with elaborate planning and risk analysis. Maya was 13 years old, running on insufficient sleep and cosmic energy drinks. Instead of being intimidated by entities that had destroyed multiple dimensions, she got annoyed. "Oh, you think you're scary?" Maya muttered, her consciousness expanding across galactic distances. Try being the only kid in middle school who gets excited about calculus. Try eating lunch alone every day because you'd rather read about quantum physics than gossip about celebrities. Through the quantum matrix, Maya began implementing solutions that no mature civilization would have attempted. She used techniques from chaos theory, applied Fibonacci sequences to dimensional mathematics, and essentially started treating reality like an incredibly complex puzzle that needed solving. The predator entities had never encountered anything like Maya's approach. Where they expected measured responses and careful strategies, they found a brilliant human child who looked at impossible problems and immediately started experimenting with creative solutions. Maya felt the dimensional barriers stabilizing under her influence, the chaotic sky outside beginning to return to normal blue. But she also sensed something else. A larger pattern that connected the dimensional breach to the silence that was consuming star systems. "Axiom," she said, her voice echoing with cosmic harmonics. "The silence isn't a natural phenomenon. It's these same predator entities, but using a different approach. They're not just trying to invade our dimension. They're systematically removing any civilization that might be able to stop them." Through the quantum matrix, Maya could see the predators' entire strategy. They had been feeding on the galaxy for millennia, eliminating species that showed potential for rapid development. But humanity had evolved too quickly for them to notice, until it was almost too late. "That's why they're targeting Earth specifically," Maya continued, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensions simultaneously. "They're afraid of us, afraid of what we might become." The dimensional breach was closing under Maya's influence, but she could feel the predator entities making one final desperate attack. They poured every bit of their remaining energy into breaking through Earth's reality barriers, determined to eliminate humanity before retreating to plan their next move. Maya met their assault with every ounce of human stubbornness and creativity she possessed. She didn't fight them with superior technology or ancient wisdom. She fought them with the sheer, audacious belief that a 13-year-old girl from Oregon could save the galaxy if she just tried hard enough. The battle lasted only seconds in real time, but from Maya's perspective, it felt like hours of cosmic chess played at light speed. When it ended, the predator entities had been forced back to their own dimension, the breach sealed, and the sky returned to normal. Maya collapsed to her knees, the quantum matrix connection severing as her exhausted mind returned to normal human parameters. But she had succeeded. Earth was safe, the dimensional barriers were stronger than ever, and she had gained crucial intelligence about the true nature of the galactic threat. "Maya!" Sarah caught her daughter as she swayed, checking her pulse and pupils with a mother's clinical concern. "Are you okay? Are you still... you?" Maya looked up at her mother and smiled wearily. "I'm fine, Mom. Better than fine, actually. I think I just figured out how to save the galaxy." Axiom's starlight form was pulsing with what Maya now recognized as amazement. "Child, what you just accomplished should have been impossible. You repelled entities that have destroyed entire dimensional clusters. You stabilized reality barriers using techniques that don't exist in any known archive." "I had a good teacher," Maya said, patting the archive book affectionately. "And I think I finally understand why humanity is special. We don't just adapt to circumstances. We change the rules when the circumstances are stupid." Sarah helped Maya to her feet, still looking shaken by everything she had witnessed. "So what happens now? Do we tell the government? The scientific community?" "First," Maya said, looking out the window at the now normal sky, "we need to contact the Galactic Council. They need to know that the silence isn't unstoppable. It's just a bunch of dimensional bullies who've never had to deal with humans before." Axiom's galaxy eyes seemed to sparkle with something like anticipation. "And then?" Maya grinned, feeling more confident than she had in her entire 13 years of life. Then we show them what happens when you mess with a species that's too curious to quit and too stubborn to accept defeat. She looked at the archive, which was now displaying congratulatory messages in dozens of alien languages, and then at her mother, who was still processing the fact that her daughter had just saved the world before breakfast. Besides, Maya added with growing excitement, I've got some ideas about how to fix this silence problem permanently. It's going to involve a lot of math, some very creative physics, and probably breaking a few more rules that everyone thinks are unbreakable. Axiom made that supernova chuckling sound again. Maya-Chen, I believe you are about to change the galaxy forever. Maya looked out at the stars, which she now knew were filled with civilizations in desperate need of hope. Good, she said simply. It's about time someone did. 3 weeks after the dimensional breach incident, Maya's attic had been transformed into an improvised galactic communication center. The old Victorian house now hosted regular video conferences with species from across the galaxy, all coordinated through Axiom and the archive's advanced communication systems. Maya had become something she never expected, a consultant to civilizations millions of years older than humanity. The Crystalline Assembly of Andromeda wishes to present their latest theoretical framework, Axiom announced as Maya settled into her desk chair, now surrounded by floating holographic displays showing star maps and dimensional mathematics. Maya looked at the elegant crystal beings on her main screen, their thoughts manifesting as harmonious light patterns. They had been working on the silence problem for over 8 centuries and represented some of the galaxy's most advanced mathematical minds. Honored human Maya, their spokesperson chimed in perfect musical tones, we have completed analysis of the dimensional resonance frequencies you suggested. Our calculations confirm that targeting the silence's quantum substrate using harmonic interference patterns could theoretically destabilize their consumption matrix. But, Maya prompted, because she could hear the hesitation in their crystalline voices. But implementing such a solution would require computational power exceeding our civilization's entire technological capacity. The calculations alone would take our fastest quantum cores approximately 4,000 years to complete. Maya nodded, making notes on her tablet while simultaneously reviewing similar reports from dozen other species. Every galactic civilization had reached the same conclusion. Her ideas were theoretically sound, but practically impossible to implement with conventional technology. What about the mechanical collective? She asked. Their manufacturing capabilities are supposed to be pretty impressive. The crystal being's light patterns shifted to indicate polite disagreement. The collective's integration of 17 billion AI consciousnesses into a unified computational network represents the galaxy's peak artificial intelligence achievement. However, even their processing power falls short of requirements by several orders of magnitude. Maya's mother entered the attic, carrying 2 cups of coffee and looking remarkably calm for someone whose daughter now regularly chatted with alien civilizations. 3 weeks of gradual exposure to galactic politics had given Sarah time to adjust to their new reality. How's the morning progress report? Sarah asked, settling into a chair beside Maya. Same as always, Maya replied, accepting her coffee gratefully. Everyone agrees my solutions would work in theory, but nobody has the computational power or technological resources to implement them. The silence keeps consuming star systems while we debate mathematical possibilities. Sarah reviewed the data displays floating around them, her physicist's training allowing her to follow the complex discussions despite their cosmic scale. What about combining resources? Could multiple civilizations work together? We've tried that, Maya said with frustration. The coordination overhead actually makes things worse. Plus, most species are so worried about protecting their remaining territory that they won't commit significant resources to experimental solutions. Axiom materialized beside them, its starlight form dimmer than usual. I bring troubling news from the Galactic Council. The silence consumed the Hearthstone system last night. That represents the loss of over 12 billion lives and one of our most important agricultural worlds. Maya felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling heavier on her shoulders. 12 billion people, gone without a trace. While she sat in an attic in Oregon, drinking coffee and working on theoretical solutions that nobody could implement. How many systems left before they reach the core sectors? She asked quietly. At current consumption rates, approximately 18 months, Axiom replied. The exodus from Outer Rim territories is causing massive refugee crises throughout the galaxy. Entire civilizations are abandoning their homeworlds. Maya stared at the galactic map, watching the red zones that marked silence-consumed systems slowly expand toward the populated core. Hundreds of civilizations, trillions of lives, all depending on solutions that seemed just beyond reach. There has to be another approach, she muttered, pulling up her files on human technological development. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong. Maybe we don't need better technology. Maybe we need different thinking. She spent the next hour reviewing everything she'd learned about galactic problem-solving approaches. Every species seemed to follow similar patterns. Identify the problem, develop theoretical solutions, build consensus among experts, then implement through careful planning and massive resource allocation. It was logical, efficient, and absolutely unsuited for the crisis they faced. "Mom," Maya said suddenly, "remember when I was 8 and built that robot for the science fair?" Sarah smiled at the memory. "You mean the one that was supposed to clean your room but instead rearranged everything according to color patterns? It took us weeks to find all your books." "Exactly. It didn't do what it was designed for, but it worked perfectly according to its own logic." What if we're approaching the silence problem the same way everyone approaches galactic engineering, with massive, carefully planned solutions that require perfect implementation? Maya pulled up the archive's files on human technological development, comparing it to other species' advancement patterns. The differences were striking. Other civilizations developed technology gradually, each advancement building carefully on previous knowledge. Humans, by contrast, had a tendency to jump straight from theoretical concepts to working prototypes, often creating successful solutions without fully understanding why they worked. "Look at this," Maya said, showing her mother the comparison charts. The Vorthak took 2,000 years to develop quantum computing from basic electronics. The Ethereal Collective took 5,000 years. Humans did it in less than a century, mostly by accident while trying to solve completely different problems. Axiom moved closer to examine the data. "Your species does show unusual development patterns. Most civilizations consider your approach dangerously reckless." "But it works," Maya insisted. "We don't have time for careful, methodical solutions. The silence isn't going to wait while we spend centuries developing perfect technology. We need something that works right now, even if it's messy and imperfect." She opened a new file and began sketching out ideas, not for massive computational networks or carefully orchestrated galactic responses, but for something characteristically human, a quick, dirty, experimental solution that might just work. "What if we don't try to fight the silence directly?" Maya asked, her excitement building as the ideas took shape. "What if we make it irrelevant instead?" Sarah and Axiom watched as Maya outlined her new approach. Instead of trying to destroy the silence or prevent its advance, she proposed giving it something better to do. The predator entities feed on the creative potential of developing civilizations, Maya explained. They are attracted to species that are just beginning to reach technological sophistication. But what if we offered them unlimited creative potential instead? Her plan was audacious, even by human standards. Maya proposed using the archive network to create artificial pocket dimensions, essentially dummy universes populated with rapidly developing virtual civilizations. The Silence would be drawn to consume these synthetic targets while real civilizations escape to safety. It's like giving a cat a toy mouse instead of letting it hunt real ones, Maya said. The predators get to feed, but they're not actually destroying anything meaningful. Axiom's starlight form flickered with what Maya had learned to recognize as deep thinking. The computational requirements for creating convincing virtual civilizations would still exceed galactic capabilities. Not if we do it the human way, Maya grinned. We don't create perfect simulations. We create good enough simulations that improve through iteration. She pulled up a new display showing her proposed implementation method. Instead of trying to create fully realized virtual universes from scratch, Maya suggested starting with simple mathematical models and letting them evolve naturally. We seed the pocket dimensions with basic evolutionary algorithms and let virtual civilizations develop organically. The Silence won't be able to tell the difference between real creative potential and simulated creative potential, especially if we make the simulations chaotic and unpredictable enough. Sarah studied the proposal with growing amazement. Maya, this is basically using evolutionary computation as a galactic defense mechanism. It's completely insane. Exactly, Maya said happily. No sane civilization would try something this risky, but humans specialize in solutions that work despite being completely unreasonable. Axiom was already running preliminary calculations through the archive network. The energy requirements would be substantial, but not beyond galactic capabilities, and the risk factors are actually acceptable, assuming the virtual civilizations remain contained within their pocket dimensions. How long to implement? Maya asked. If we begin immediate construction using available resources from willing civilizations, perhaps 6 months for the first prototype system. Maya shook her head. Too long. The Silence will consume dozens more systems by then. We need to move faster. She opened another file, this one containing her emergency backup plan, the solution she'd been hoping not to use because it was even more reckless than the virtual civilization approach. What if we don't wait for consensus or careful construction? Maya asked. What if we just start building? Her new proposal made the virtual civilization idea look conservative. Maya suggested using the archive network to implement a distributed construction approach, with each participating civilization building small components without waiting for overall coordination. It's like crowdsourcing the galaxy, she explained. Everyone builds whatever piece they can manage. We connect everything together through quantum entanglement networks and hope the system works when we turn it on. Maya, her mother said carefully, that approach has approximately 1,000 ways it could go catastrophically wrong. Yes, but it also has one way it could go spectacularly right, Maya replied with characteristic stubborn optimism. And that's better odds than we have with any other approach. Axiom spent several long minutes consulting with other cosmic guardians through channels Maya couldn't access. When the consultation ended, the being's starlight form was pulsing with what looked like decisive energy. The Archive Collective has reached a conclusion, Axiom announced. Your proposal violates approximately 200 established protocols for galactic engineering projects. It has an estimated 67% chance of complete failure and a 12% chance of causing unintended consequences that could destabilize local spacetime. Maya waited for the inevitable rejection. However, Axiom continued, it also represents the first proposed solution with a realistic chance of implementation within the required time frame. The Galactic Council has voted to authorize immediate experimental deployment. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and terror. They're actually going to let a 13-year-old girl from Earth design and coordinate a galaxy-wide engineering project? Child, Axiom said with unmistakable warmth, in the past 3 weeks, You have demonstrated problem-solving capabilities that exceed most civilizations' combined efforts over centuries. More importantly, you have shown the willingness to attempt solutions that more cautious minds would never consider. Sarah looked at her daughter with a mixture of pride and worry. Are you ready for this level of responsibility? Maya thought about the question seriously. 3 weeks ago, she had been a lonely middle school student whose biggest concern was finding somewhere to sit at lunch. Now she was being asked to coordinate the galaxy's defense against an existential threat. But she also thought about the 12 billion lives lost in the Hearthstone system and the trillions more depending on solutions that traditional approaches couldn't provide in time. I'm scared, Maya admitted. This is way bigger than anything I ever imagined dealing with. But I'm also the only one crazy enough to try something this ambitious on this timeline. So, yeah, I'm ready. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of constant communication with dozens of alien civilizations. Maya found herself coordinating construction efforts across thousands of star systems while simultaneously designing system integration protocols that had never been attempted before. The beauty of her distributed approach became apparent quickly. Instead of waiting for perfect coordination, each civilization simply started building whatever components they could manage with their existing technology. The mechanical collective fabricated quantum processing nodes. The crystal assembly created dimensional stabilization matrices. Energy-based species like Axiom's people provided power distribution networks. Maya tied everything together using principles borrowed from chaos theory and network mathematics, creating a system that was simultaneously incredibly complex and remarkably robust. Individual component failures wouldn't bring down the entire network because redundancy was built into every level. By the end of the third day, they had constructed something that would have taken traditional galactic engineering centuries to plan and decades to build, a distributed pocket dimension generator capable of creating hundreds of virtual universes simultaneously. Initializing first test sequence, Maya announced to the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations, all watching through quantum communication links as humanity's youngest ambassador prepared to activate technology that had never been tested at this scale. The virtual universe generators came online smoothly, creating the first batch of pocket dimensions seeded with basic evolutionary algorithms. Maya watched the monitoring displays as mathematical life forms began developing within the artificial realities, following patterns that mimicked natural evolution but at accelerated speeds. Within hours, the first virtual civilizations had evolved to Stone Age equivalent complexity. Within days, they were developing mathematics and primitive technology. The simulated creative potential was growing exponentially, exactly as Maya had predicted. Signal detected, Axiom reported with barely contained excitement. The Silence has noticed the virtual civilizations and is beginning to investigate. On Maya's displays, she could see the cosmic predators approaching the pocket dimensions cautiously, drawn by the creative energy radiating from the artificial universes, but apparently puzzled by their artificial nature. Maya held her breath as the Silence made contact with the first virtual civilization. For a moment, she worried that the predators would immediately recognize the deception and ignore her carefully constructed targets. Instead, the Silence began consuming the virtual universe with apparent satisfaction. The mathematical life forms provided exactly the kind of creative potential the predators craved, and the evolutionary algorithms ensured a constant supply of new developments to attract their attention. "It's working," Maya whispered, watching as more predator entities abandoned their advance toward real civilizations and turned toward the much more attractive virtual targets. They're actually choosing the fake civilizations over the real ones. The effect spread rapidly across the galaxy as Maya's distributed network came fully online. Hundreds of pocket dimensions offered unlimited feeding opportunities for the Silence. while real civilizations found themselves suddenly ignored by their cosmic predators. "Maya," Sarah said quietly, "I think you just saved the galaxy." But Maya was already thinking ahead, planning improvements and expansions. "This is just the beginning, Mom. Now that we know the principle works, we can refine it. Create better virtual civilizations, more attractive targets, maybe even figure out ways to redirect the silence toward completely uninhabited dimensions." Axiom's starlight form was pulsing with what Maya now recognized as profound admiration. "In less than 100 hours, you have accomplished what the galaxy's greatest minds could not achieve in over a century. You have neutralized a threat that has consumed hundreds of civilizations." Maya looked at the galactic map, now showing the silence entities moving away from populated systems toward her virtual universe clusters. Red zones that had marked consumed territories were stabilizing as the predators lost interest in real civilizations. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now," Axiom said, "the galaxy learns what it means to have humanity as a member of the galactic community. Your species' approach to impossible problems is exactly what we needed." Sarah put an arm around her daughter's shoulders. "I'm proud of you, Maya, but I have to ask, are you going to be able to handle being the galaxy's go-to problem solver?" Maya grinned, feeling more confident and capable than she ever had before. "Are you kidding? This is the best job ever. I get to solve cosmic-scale puzzles, work with alien mathematics, and save civilizations from existential threats. It's like being a superhero, except with more science and less spandex." She looked out the attic window at stars that she now knew were safe because of her work. Somewhere out there, trillions of beings were going about their lives without knowing that a 13-year-old human girl had just ensured their continued existence. "Besides," Maya added with characteristic human optimism, "I've got lots more ideas for improving galactic civilization. Wait until you see my plans for solving the resource distribution problems in the Outer Rim territories. And I think I've figured out how to make faster-than-light communication work using quantum entanglement networks." Axiom made that familiar supernova chuckling sound. "Maya Chen, I believe you are going to revolutionize the galaxy many times over." Maya nodded enthusiastically. "That's the plan. After all, what's the point of having access to cosmic knowledge if you don't use it to make things better?" She pulled up her next project files, already deep into planning solutions for problems that had puzzled galactic civilization for millennia, because that's what humans did. They looked at impossible situations and immediately started figuring out ways to fix them. And somewhere in the vast cosmic distance, pocket dimensions full of virtual civilizations continued to evolve and develop, keeping the silence happily occupied while real species flourished under the protection of humanity's characteristic refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. Maya Chen, 13 years old and armed with alien mathematics, had become exactly what the galaxy needed: a problem solver who was too young to know when something couldn't be done, and too stubborn to give up even when she found out. 3 months later, when the Galactic Council formally invited Earth to join as a full-member civilization, Maya was there to represent humanity's interests. Not because she was the oldest or wisest human, but because she had already proven that sometimes the best solutions come from minds young enough to think the impossible might just be possible. The universe was a very large place, full of ancient civilizations and cosmic mysteries. But it had never before encountered anything quite like human curiosity combined with human determination. Maya had a feeling the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place to live.